Hi, this is Swan with Swan Amity Studios, and today we are taking a look at doing scrap piecing that is improvisational with the sew and flip method. When we're using something like that to create fabric that we can use for a variety of projects, you'll find it's very successful to begin by starting with an odd-shaped piece. Now, it can be anything that just isn't kind of a rectangle or a square. It doesn't get you quite as many fun angles to start with something that gives you very square piecing. Of course, there's nothing wrong with starting that way, but you'll get a project that's a lot more linear. So I'm going to start with this triangle that is an equilateral triangle. It's just something that was left over from a 60-degree project that I was doing. And I have my scrap stash over here that I'm going to be using for this pressed, just so everything's relatively flat. And then no rules were observed in this except to choose some similar fabrics in terms of a color family. So we're just doing all warm colors this time, everything from red to really bright yellow. We've got some oranges in there, and we're going as small as just tiny pieces, tiny leftovers. And we don't care if they're jagged or anything like that. We're going to trim away as we go. So those leftover pieces from half square triangle units, just some leftover ends of things. I don't even clean those up before I get started. Let's see how we're going to make this work. I'm going to start with my 1/4 inch seam guide on, and I'm just starting by putting raw edge to raw edge on one side of that triangle, just like that, and send it through the machine. Now you can do this with multiple pieces at a time if you want to, if you know that some of these things are going to be a little too short to make them work in different places in the piece. You can just go ahead and start running some of those through at the same time. But each time that you stitch, you've stitched, now flip and press. It doesn't matter which direction you press in, entirely up to you whether you press towards or towards the added piece or towards the original piece, totally up to you. Or you can press all your seams open, also entirely up to you. I'm going to press towards the orange this time. Once I have pressed, I'm then going to need to create something that sets me up to get another clean edge. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and attach to this side first. I'm just going to knock off this little extra part here so that I've got a straight edge. And then I can go ahead and add in the next piece. Let's grab some of this really great red here and pop that on the side. If I can, I'll bring my seams up so I can see those and make sure they're going through the machine flat. And while I'm doing that, I can always throw a couple more tiny pieces together. See that guy? I would definitely need to have it added to something else. Now this little guy, I'm going to flip out and press towards the red. Whenever you're doing this improvisational scrap piecing like this, you're going to need to spend just a little bit of time every once in a while creating some new straight lines. So I'm going to do that on this side and on this side. And I'm just going to line up my ruler with the straight edge of that original red, knock off that new red additive, so I have a straight line on one side. And then I'm going to flip my piece around and give myself a new straight line on this side as well. And it doesn't matter where it goes, it just matters that I get inside of where that seam connection is. So just inside of it, and then you can kind of decide what angle you want to get on it. I'm going to go kind of straight across here. But there's no right answer to that. You could have gone any direction would be fine. And now I'm going to go ahead and add something to this side. I have this kind of piece of orange here on the top. flip over so I see the seams and keep going. I've got some of these guys left. I'm going to press towards the red and add another one. Got just a little bit of a bump there, and I can just grab my rotary cutter and knock that off. And we'll add, how about kind of one of these magenta ones to the side there. I'll throw it on right here. See how that looks. Like I said, there are no right or wrong answers here. It's just what do you like? Let's grab this one and press outward towards the orange. Most of the time when I'm doing a sew and flip, I really like to just keep pressing towards the added section. You can see I've got a little bit of an overhang here, so then I would come back and once again trim off any kind of little excess so I can get a new straight line to work from. Now that means that eventually you're going to have bigger and bigger pieces that you've built. Eventually you'll need to keep knocking different sections off or back, changing directions. Here I could choose to go ahead and square up this side and put a long piece on. I could choose to turn the piece, knock off this section, and get a straight line to work with here before I start adding more pieces over here. I have lots of different options. Personally, I would probably take this section off and start adding again to this side. And eventually you're going to create pieces big enough that they work for your project. This one needs to have a little bit more added to it to be a great new cover for my Kindle. And I could make it even bigger and turn it into a cover for a larger book project if I wanted to. I just think this is going to be perfect for my Kindle. It's going to look great in my travel bag on my next airplane trip. So think about how all those little bitty pieces are really not something you have to throw in the trash. Do you have a big pile of gorgeous scraps? It doesn't matter what size they are. It doesn't matter how big or small, or if they're oddly cut. This is the perfect concept for you to turn those all into fabric that you can actually play with and use in all of your projects. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're enjoying the Summer Scrap Elimination, and if it's past the summer, those blogs stay up forever, so there's no reason to not get on there and enjoy, have fun, and stitch happy.